podcast listener. You are listening to What Scares Us, a podcast from the Ann Arbor District Library in Michigan, where four friends share the movies that make you want to avoid the English Camel Corps, stay away from stray banjo players, and pass up late-night muddy massages. I'm Christopher, and I'm joined by three other staff members of the library.
My name is Matt.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Amanda.
Before we get into this episode, I'd like to dedicate it to Joe, Chris, Lydia, and Ben, who listen in from London.
Oh.
We've got some international listeners.
Wow.
We are talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers in 1978 today. This is a star-studded cast with Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy, Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright, and Jerry Garcia. Now, I've got a trivia question open to everyone. Which two of these people have appeared on the podcast before?
Wait.
Donald
Sutherland for
Donald
sure,
Sutherland,
and Veronica Cartwright.
Veronica Cartwright.
Wait,
That's right.
Isn't there No, never mind. Sorry.
So, this is quite an exciting movie. We're going to get into it. I think we're going to talk about the different versions of the movie, but we're going to focus on 1978. This is a movie about some invasive pod plants that come from outer space, and they slowly begin to replace everyone around you, and you never know if the person you trust is a pod person or not. I would like to ask everyone, what's your experience with the movie? Have you seen it before the podcast?
So I actually watched this movie for the first time last year.
What?
Yep. This movie was a blind spot for me for a very long time for reasons I can't really explain. So like a lot of people, I put together a list of spooky movies to watch in October with my wife last year, and we put this one on there, and within the first 10 minutes, I fell asleep. Mm-hmm. So then I tried it again a couple days later. About 30 minutes in, I fell asleep. And I said, all right, I guess I'm not watching this movie. So then when we picked it for the podcast, I sat down about a week ago to watch it, made about an hour in, fell asleep. Then I watched it one more time on Sunday. It was about 11 o'clock. I had 2 cups of coffee. I had walked the dogs. I was like in my element. I was sitting in a fully like sunlit room. Fell asleep right away.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know why this movie does that to me.
Dude, Kibner slipped you some sedatives.
It does feel like it. And maybe I was taken over or something because you aren't supposed to fall asleep or whatever
That's really
they
funny.
say. I did watch this movie all the way through. But yeah, that has been my experience with this movie so far. Without tipping my hat too much, there's something about this movie that doesn't fully connect for me. But I have now seen it all the way through.
Great.
Full disclosure. So,
Allison, what do you think?
Yeah, this is so funny because for me, this is like this weird full circle moment because I watched this for the first time in January 2022, right when we were recording our Alien episode. And so to me, like I only knew Veronica Cartwright from just watching this. And I think I might have said something. But I am actually a huge fan of the 50s version. I've seen it like a bazillion times. Because that's, I don't know, just an era that really works for me for some reason. And I had tried to watch the 70s version a couple times, but I also, at the time, felt it was very slow. Mm-hmm. I don't know why now, having actually seen it. But anyway, I had tried to watch it and turned it off because I would always watch the 50s version, which I love, and then try to watch this right away afterward, and it's the same freaking story, and I would just lose interest right away. So this time, I did it the right way and watched the 70s version first and then followed up by the 50s version. And I love this movie now. And funnily enough, I feel like it's sort of replaced the 50s version for me.
Really?
I think this one is better. Yeah, I think this is one of the like very few remakes that I think is actually like worth making, because I feel like they did update the story and they added to it, like thematically, to fit with what was going on in the 70s. So I think this is good. I also really like the effects, which they're a lot better than the 50s version.
As could be expected.
So yeah, this was the first time I'd actually seen it all the way through, though. And I do think they could cut like 20 minutes, but this was like really rocking for me. I didn't feel like it was slow this time. And I stayed awake the entire time, which is honestly a struggle for me half the time.
That's funny. Yeah, I hadn't seen this movie before. It's never, I mean, it's always on the list, but it's never been on my radar of something like, oh, I'm going to watch this. And I like picking up like random, like weird 70s, like, you know, claims, you know, cult classics. And this one never was on my list of top things to watch. And so I was glad to have to watch it for this. And I liked it. It was weird. I do also agree that it needed to be cut. Some of the chase scenes got long, and I was fully engrossed and into it. I never fell asleep at any time. I got bored. I wanted to do something else, but I was trying to stay focused. But I think if it would have just been a little, I mean, it's almost 2 hours long. It didn't need to be. It was a little, it could have been like an hour 40 tops. Hour and a half would have been gold.
Make it
perfect
90
movie.
minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
The 50s version is an hour 20.
Oh my goodness.
Tight.
Wow.
And that came out the year after the movie came out, or after the book came out.
Wow. But I like the cinematic quality of it. It's kind of, it's very like fuzzy, and the music tone at the very beginning, I was just like sucked in because it just looked very weird. And I'm not super into like vintage sci-fi films at all. But this one I feel like is when like sci-fi becomes reality. And I think it was a cool movie pick for now. So also when I found out what we were watching, I looked it up and I was like, oh, he's in it? Oh, he's in it? Oh, she's in it? What? How did that happen? So I thought it was kind of cool.
I'll also say I feel like I wouldn't have liked this movie as much if we hadn't watched Don't Look Now first.
Right.
Because I am not a fan of movies from the 70s, full stop.
It's Donald also.
Yeah, to me, he was just, you know, President Snow from the Hunger Games, but I've come to see him in a new light.
That's great. Well, I think my father took me to the movie theater to see this movie in 1978.
That's cool.
And
How old would you have been?
I would have been 10.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
And I have great memories of this. I got to watch the movie again on video when I lived in San Francisco, and I didn't even know that it was filmed in San Francisco. It's such a San Francisco movie.
Very much so.
And you get the Transamerica Tower, the pyramid, in so many scenes. I didn't say earlier that the movie is directed by Philip Kaufman, and a few of us had the chance to listen to his comments when we watched the movie. That added so much to my appreciation of the movie. I couldn't believe it. Again, this is a movie that really rewards a close watch and thinking about every single camera angle, everything going on, all the odd things happening in the background. The lighting and Kaufman's comments really added a lot to the movie for
that
me.
is cool.
Well, we are entering into spoiler territory, of course. So if you have not seen the movie yet,
Leave!
Get the fuck out of here.
You're next! They're coming for you!
this is the time to put the podcast down and go get this movie. Before we begin, I want to say one more thing about the movie. The reason I like this movie so much is the same reason I like Jaws and also Alien so much. You get this amazing character development, and this romance between Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams is so charming and so cute and so believable. You know, that could be its own spin-off TV show. I loved it so much.
Their chemistry was so good, even from the beginning before I knew who all the people were. Like, they had such good chemistry. I was like, well, these two have to be a thing, right? They're having an affair, right? These two have to be a thing.
Yeah.
So it was really sweet to see it develop over time. And I was just reading an article where they were talking to the director, and he commented on this bringing this characterization and bringing these characters to life and focusing on having them be humans and having these little intimate moments with each other, like when they're sitting there eating and she does that weird thing with her eyes.
Oh, yeah.
That was just like, it has happened. Like they just wanted something natural for her to do that would make it seem like a sweet moment.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And even his comments at I think it was at dinner, or it might have been earlier in the movie, where he says, even weirder than what he normally does. You know, he's definitely trying to move into this.
Calling your coworker late at night like that. Sorry, I was looking at it with a side eye, like, what the fuck are you up to, you creep?
Yep.
But also, but then they were like cooking together later, and he feeds her in the
And
middle
then he
of it.
says,
Which
"Do you want some more wine?"
yeah, all right, buddy.
But she seemed, and I didn't see it from that. Even as like a woman, I still thought that she trusted him, and she knew, okay, they're not hooking up or anything. They just are good friends that trust each other.
Yeah.
And you could see that from her portrayal, that she trusted him and that it wasn't some sort of a trap.
Well, and they are inherently good. They work for the Department of Public Health.
Yeah. So apparently he's in charge
The
of so
best
many
people.
things. You don't call the police, you call the health department. It's like, what?
Yeah, I thought that was especially wild. One, I'm very close friends with a lot of my colleagues. I would not be doing half the stuff.
You
with
call
them.
me late at night.
Yeah, like wow. But in the 50s version, her name isn't Elizabeth. Her name is Becky. But she just got back from getting divorced, and so she's back in town. And these two knew each other the whole time. So it's like not weird that they're together. This, I was like, this is like border, like just divorce him already. What the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
if this is what you want, go for it.
That's how it all
but-
begins, right? You gotta,
Right.
Yeah. Are you going to share fun facts, Christopher?
No, I
share a
am
couple?
not.
There's nothing
actually-
fun about this.
Oh,
movie.
I have a couple of fun
Please
ones.
I have a billion.
share away.
Yeah.
I
We're
mean,
still not spoiling. Or
Hit
maybe,
me with the fun
Yeah.
facts.
I've
I only
got.
have a couple. One of them is that the laden banjo music for the banjo guy was recorded by Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead.
Who
Very cool.
I only know from the incredible ice cream.
There you are. Delicious ice cream featuring a pod dog. Also, the 1956 director, Don Siegel.
Yeah.
He acted in the movie. He was the cabbie
Yep.
who was driving them to the airport later
Yep.
in the movie. And then the person who played the original Donald Sutherland actor, Kevin McCarthy, he also acted in this, and he plays the guy who runs in his windshield
Yep.
and says, "They're coming, they're coming."
Which is how the 50s version ends, sort of.
Yep. And Don Siegel, who also directed Dirty Harry and Escape from Alcatraz, taking
Yep.
place in San Francisco. Yeah. Don Siegel is near and dear to my heart. He directed a lot of my favorite Eastwood stuff.
Well, and Philip Kaufman also worked on Outlaw Josie Wales.
Oh, right. That's right.
Raiders of the
Which is
Lost Ark.
great. Yeah, he
and
wrote the
Unbearable-
story for that. Isn't that
Yes.
wild?
And Unbearable Lightness of Being. So,
Oh, wow.
Very
yeah.
cool.
Well, yeah, I was going to get to all those, but I'm glad you brought them up.
Oh,
as
spoiled
No,
it.
no. So they were spoilers. Awesome.
Bring them up again like it's fresh.
And then I will too.
We'll re-talk about it.
Yeah.
And we've only mentioned Alien once so far. So
I have a note for later.
lots to talk about.
I have a connection for aliens for this movie.
I thought they were so similar. It was freaking me out.
There is a very direct connection. We'll get to it.
Oh, good. I missed it.
I have a fun fact for specifically Amanda. This movie takes place in San Francisco. The 50s version takes place in Santa Mira, California, which is a fictional town, but that's also the town that the Silver Shamrocks come from in Halloween 3.
That's really cool.
Hell yeah.
I love that.
Did you read that? Or did you just know that?
I did not just know that. My brain is a cipher, but not in that way.
Okay. Oh, man. That's great.
Wow. I have questions, but I'm not going to worry about it.
That's very cool, though.
Well, the film opens on a distant, almost lifeless planet, except there's a little bit of life left to it. And I love this wispy feel with the music, and things are starting to float through space. They land in San Francisco during a rainstorm, and the director talks about his $5 bottle of gel that he made good use of during all this opening scene. And one of the first shots, I think before we even see any main characters, we see a garbage truck. So that is either foreshadowing or already telling us that things are in full swing already. So I love these opening special effects, the leaves and the vines growing. I thought they looked great. And who's that on the swing?
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
This is who I was going to mention in your opening.
Okay, Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
He's our first pod person
It's our buddy Robert Duvall, the priest.
who just was around.
Yes,
That's so cool. Yeah.
Paid with an Eddie Bauer sweater.
right.
They are nice, but I don't think I'd accept that as payment.
So I just love, he's just there, swinging along, and all the children are there, and we're already seeing this weird stare develop among people. And there's Brooke Adams, Elizabeth, who decides, hey, that's a pretty flower, let's pick it, and try to identify it later on. So, Elizabeth comes home, that's Brooke Adams, and there's Jeffrey, who I think the first thing he does is snap his fingers at her, which is not very becoming, not very joyful. And he calls Brooke over, he's watching the game, and we meet Brooke's boyfriend. Later on, we get this great shot down the hall of them talking. We can't really see them. They're in the apartment. She's talking about the flower. And I think he's flossing at one point. Did you catch that?
I don't remember.
He's
if he
doing
was
something in the
flossing.
bedroom while she's reading that book of facts.
Yeah.
Right. And then it all made sense. He is a dentist after all. So
Is
maybe
he?
he's got to sneak a quick floss in while he watches.
Or he'll get fired.
That's so funny because I just watched the 80s Little Shop of Horrors for the first time. And
It's fun.
yeah,
You'll
Steve
be a
Martin.
dentist.
Causing things pain.
So we've got this interaction, this setup between Jeffrey and Elizabeth. Then we meet Elizabeth's boss, Matthew, and we find out that they both work at the health department. Matthew is on the mission. He's at the restaurant. I just love this opening scene. But here again, we're starting to get this creepy stare from all the cooks in the back room. Matthew is going around investigating, and he finds a rat turd in the soup.
Hey, K-Pal.
A rat turd.
The scene is so tonally not fitting with this movie for me because it's so funny. I love this scene, but it doesn't fit to me.
It's very early to have such a funny scene.
Yeah.
And I wasn't picking up on any zombie stares at this point.
No, I think they were all just like, "Fuck this guy, he's from the health department."
I wasn't picking up
You
on
know?
any of that so far.
Oh, okay. So the opening scene in the playground, people
On
are
the swing.
right.
at the swing. People are really starting to stare. The cooks have this blank stare, and the director says that if you make the movie creepy enough, if you make this, if you do it well enough, any shot of the city or of people is going to creep you out. And I think that is really starting to play into effect. You know, the director probably didn't even say, "Look like you're staring as a pod person," but I think it's already playing into this weird feeling of what's going on. And then we get more stares in the next scene back in the office. Did you guys catch the scene in the hallway?
Yes.
They're walking down the hall, and there's a face behind that wavy glass just staring out into the hall.
There's a guy at the very end of the scene too who turns around and looks at
That's
them.
right.
And you start to see a lot more
But
of
how
it.
come they aren't making that shriek sound to get them? Why are regular humans type
They haven't
H,
hit their shriek
why are
quota
type
yet.
H allowed to walk around then?
I
Well,
agree with you. These
yeah.
are the problems I have with this movie.
So they may or may not be pod people. I'm not saying that they are pod people,
Okay.
but there's something really unsettling going on already. And maybe, it's just general humans are unsettling. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying they've been converted yet, but and if you start to see all of these things put together, I think it does add up to a really creepy, unsettling experience.
Well, for me, even if I wasn't picking up on the staring, it was creepy up until this point because it's so quiet. The way the music was playing, and you don't quite know what's going on. Then there's this funny scene in a restaurant with the turd, a caper, a rat turd. But I was still, the creepiness was already existing because
Right.
it's so, like the tone of it, the way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it feels. You're already like waiting for some weird stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Because you don't
Right.
quite know the setup. You don't quite know how it's all going to play out.
Right.
I think they're pod people.
You're a much more intelligent movie viewer than I am.
I don't know if that's true, but I think they haven't hit like a critical mass where they can start screaming yet. Like
Right.
if you're trying to infiltrate something, you can't just go out there and
Right. They're not all like protecting. They're not like at the pod farm, I think.
And they're not communicating with each other.
Right.
Maybe.
there
Right.
might not be enough of them around to really.
Right.
if
Because I
there's-
don't know how
Take
much
them over.
time is supposed to have passed since like the rain gel storm and when we're at the Department of Health and they're talking about the baked potato.
Yeah, man, the gel and then seeing the guy on the swing really bummed me out because it's so different from the 50s version, and already I was like, oh, it's too late. It's already too late.
Oh, right.
Like it's
Yeah.
already everywhere. Like there's no.
Well, then the
hope
teacher's
for
like,
them.
kids, pick the flowers, pick some flowers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Right.
You never do that. No
You
matter
never
where
do
you
that.
go.
Don't
Right.
pick
Yeah.
flowers, especially if they're in somebody's
Yeah.
yard.
Yeah.
Person
Yeah,
that
leave
did that
only
to
footprints, take only pictures.
Exactly. This is my second favorite kitchen rat scene after Ratatouille.
I was gonna say,
which I
you were gonna say
really wanted to
Ratatouille.
watch after this. Yeah, the whole time I was like, oh, well.
Maybe we need a Rats of the Pod
Well, we've got to
category.
watch The Muppets Take Manhattan then. That's a great kitchen scene with little Rizzo ice skating on butter
Is
pats.
there anything
Aw.
scary in that?
The Muppets
I guess
Take
there's a
Manhattan.
Bugs Bunny version of this. Like they made a short,
Invasion.
an invasion
Ooh.
movie with like Bugs Bunny and
Really?
Looney Tunes characters. Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, that's great. Well, in one fleeting moment, you see two of the cooks look at each other and nod, and they go out. We realize later on they smash in Matthew's windshield. And the director says, here again, we see these tendrils, flowing across the windshield to kind of echo what's happening with these pod people and their invasion. So that was great.
And I love the goo at the beginning. I was like so amazed by it. And then you like listen to the commentary or I watched the featurettes and they're like, yeah, it's just like paint, slime, lip gloss, whatever we could find at the drugstore on plywood with like different types of volcanic rock on it and plexiglass. That's it. It costs like $15.
That's how most of that stuff works out to be.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of crap they cobble together and it always looks so cool.
Yeah.
Movie magic.
Yep.
And then all the flowers opening or like the little tendrils, they just made them and then like shot it in reverse. So they're actually just like pulling it back.
Yep.
And the noise it makes is cool too.
Oh, can I also say, I'm so sorry to those of you out there with this name, but I hate the spelling of Jeffrey. I had to go back and correct every single note I had. Not my preferred
Do
spelling.
they do it with G-E-O-F-F?
The Geoffrey.
Yes. Ugh.
Geoffrey.
Joffrey. It's like
Also, it's like Game of Thrones.
yeah, Game
Exactly.
of Thrones. Exactly. I just think of Joffrey.
Yeah. Little shit.
Oh, terrible.
This is the
guys.
only time we really see Jeffrey, like, as Jeffrey before he's turned.
That's
and he
right.
sucks so bad.
Yeah, he's a real loser.
He's almost better after.
He is not. Because I wrote down a thing that he said after he turns was, I don't think I have to justify my every move to you. And I said, okay, cool guy.
That's a good divorce line.
That
Yeah.
sucks. Yeah. When he's going to one of his little meetings.
We see Matthew cutting out a newspaper clipping. I guess that's his thing. And did you catch the headline of the
Yeah.
newspaper? Webs shroud the Bay
Yes,
Area.
right.
So I thought that was
Another
great.
one said spider colony falls from the sky.
Oh, I missed that.
The same paper is right under the bigger headline.
Okay.
I think I read that actually happened and was a real headline that happened a couple of days before.
Weird.
But they didn't see any
Cool.
spiders, though. They just saw the webs.
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
So that's some bad reporting.
Honestly, I would love that outcome. I have 50 billion spiders living in my house. I just want
Yeah.
to see the webs.
But
dude.
but we see Matthew cutting out the clippings in the paper, and you can see on his wall he has a bunch of stuff cut out. So I was like, ooh, I love a little conspiracy
He's
theorist.
crazy.
Yeah, and he works for the health department. He's trying to put stuff together.
I also like the soup scene, like, thematically, because it looks right, but it's wrong. Like, there's one little detail that isn't quite right in the soup.
Do you mean the rat turd?
Yup.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you
It's
mean
not
the
a caper.
You mean
yeah,
the caper?
but it looks
Yeah.
like one.
How are you just like straining some soup, pulling out the tiniest little blob, and you
You
know
can
that that's
see
a
it.
rat turd?
Yeah.
Hey, health
He's that
department.
good at his job.
I don't think I even know what a caper looks like.
It looks like a rat
I don't
turd.
know what a rat
Does
turd
it?
looks like.
Yeah. Well, caper's actually
it's on
more
your
round.
desk, Amanda.
I should have brought some capers.
And they come in pods, too.
Wow.
Capers come in pods.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Oh, that's
All
cool.
right.
Well,
Anyways,
It all makes sense now.
Great scene.
Jeffrey wakes up. He has changed. He's seen the light. He is someone completely different, and he's even more of a dick than he was before. There's a great shot of him out taking his own remains out to the dump truck, to the garbage truck, I mean. And that's Jeffrey Pod saying goodbye to Jeffrey the human.
Goodbye.
Jeff to Jeff. Yeah.
We don't ever hear that because we're never close to it.
So here is another reason I love this movie so much. We are 15 minutes in. We've got these great characters. We have so much creepiness. We've met our first pod person. So we are off and running. And Matt is sleeping.
Yes, he is. I woke up confused by the garbage.
Wake up, Matt,
yeah,
wake up.
no,
It happens while you sleep.
it was not lost on me how funny that was.
Oh, that reminds me. This will break your heart, but I guess this movie was like way funnier in the first cut, and then a bunch of studio execs were like, "That's not the vibe. This is supposed to be a horror movie." So
I'm
they
inclined
cut
to
a-
agree with them, but I also hate the idea of studio interference for the most part.
I think this
So.
movie is super funny. I have a bunch of quotes written down, just like little lines that I loved, mostly from Jeff Goldblum.
I was gonna say, I'm so
Yes.
dry, honey.
He's very,
I wrote that one down.
he's very. Yeah, wait, we've got it.
We're not there yet. We're not even to the bathhouse. Oh, book signing.
We're
The
way
weirdest
back.
scene. Anyway, yeah.
Calm down. Calm down, everybody.
So Elizabeth and Matthew get together for a quick dinner at Matthew's house. And this is a pretty cozy affair.
A little too soon.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
And of course, Elizabeth is there to complain about Jeffrey, that he is not Jeffrey. And they have some wine, and I love this whole sequence about Matthew trying to explain why Jeffrey may be different. And he ends with, go to see David Gibner, and we'll figure out, among all of these other things, maybe he's suddenly become a Republican.
Yeah. Yes. I like
Or
that a
become
lot.
gay. That also
Right.
was a head scratcher for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
1978.
Matthew offers Elizabeth some more wine. She takes him up on it. No, she doesn't, right? She says she's got to get to work early. I don't know. In any case.
Something like that.
Yeah. And then he says, can you still do that thing with your eyes? Which is amazing. It's like between her and Marty Feldman, they've got the best eyes in Hollywood.
And I don't know how you describe what it is that she like flutters them upward.
She's
It's-
making like little circles.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like opposite of each. It's weird as hell.
Right.
And I wonder if they like somebody saw her do that on set and like, well, we got to write this into the movie.
Yes, that is exactly what
That's
I
happened.
bet that's
Yeah.
what. Okay. Was that in the commentary?
Yeah.
Damn it! I should have listened to the commentary.
It was good, but you can also just read the trivia on IMDb for nearly all of the same
Yeah.
facts.
I read a long article on thehollywoodreporter.com.
Oh.
And it mentioned, like, she rolled her eyes, and then they wanted to put that in.
Nice.
The next morning, we're off to the dry cleaners, and we've got a visit with a stained coat, I think, and there is coffee on
She says no. She says that's not coffee.
And he says yes. You know, I'm starting to think Donald Sutherland is a little bit argumentative.
I think you might be right.
He likes to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. As soon as Donald Sutherland steps outside, what's in the background? Another garbage truck. And Donald Sutherland doesn't pay any attention. It's great. And we get to meet Harry and Pooch. So this is Jerry Garcia.
No. The actor is someone else. How wild is that?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But the
It's just
music
because
is
I am
him.
okay. Thank you.
Right.
I am not a Jerry Garcia fan. I don't really know him
Nor
at all.
should you be.
But are you a Cherry Garcia fan?
I'm not.
What? Christopher, get out of here.
Wow.
I'm not an ice cream fan.
At all?
Okay.
No, I'm not really into ice cream.
Oh
That's
my
fine.
God.
Yeah. Matthew shows up at work and gets quite a start when Elizabeth comes out of the shadows. And she's not happy.
No.
And
No, she's not.
The two of them take off in a car, and they're wondering if it's a conspiracy. She explains that Jeffrey, the dentist, has had a lot of meetings with a lot of people, and they seem to be passing around something.
And it's not teeth.
And it's not whippets either.
It's a social disease.
It is a social disease. We also get half of the story of the English Camel Corps, and we get the full version in the director's comments.
Yes. which is very funny.
So it does make me wonder what the other jokes were that got cut out of this. So we're going to end this segment talking about the running man. That is Kevin McCarthy runs/gets hit by the car. And this is the star of the 1956 version of the movie. And he says, "They're after me. They're going to get you next." And he runs off and does get killed. So,
Like immediately.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, which is so. How many times have we seen a car crash or something bad happen? I think this has such a great effect. It's really jarring. It's really upsetting. And you see those people running after him, and then they're all just standing around. And it's sad. It's upsetting. Yeah.
It's following that really great montage too. It's like I think the thing that is the scariest idea about this movie is that something like this is happening and you're piecing it together. I kind of equated I'm going to sound a little bit out of my mind when I say this, but ever since COVID, there are some days when I go for walks in downtown Ann Arbor and I will walk around, and in general, the mood downtown is weird. Just objectively, like something is off today with everybody on the street. There are more people out here screaming than usual, or it's dead silent. And I will text my wife, "The world is weird today." And I felt like a weird connection to when she was saying her direct line was something like, "It's like the city changed overnight." There are just some days where I feel that, and if you think about it for too long, the idea of that is pretty scary. That's like the most scary thing about this movie to me, I think, is the idea of something like that happening. I don't think it will, but
Also, what's cool about something like that happening is things appear to be normal. And so when it first starts happening, you've got a couple of people like her and Jeffrey, or like eventually the man and his wife in the dry cleaner.
Right.
And he's like, "Something's wrong. So she's different. Something's wrong. That's not her. That's not my wife."
and she
You've got
walks
it-
weirdly through
Yeah,
the clothes.
you've got a few people who are noticing it more viscerally to somebody they're closer to. They can see that difference. But day to day, you don't. So if you get this idea of like the pod people out there, they could be anybody, the person who's in the restaurant, chopping the carrots that are going to go in my salad. Like, you don't know. And so for me, that's like the spookiest thing about this movie is, before it gets crazy and everybody is a pod person.
Yeah.
I thought that I just like that a lot.
I think one of the most horrific aspects of the movie is that you think that there are people you can trust and you may reveal yourself to them, and it turns out you can't trust them.
Trust
Right.
no one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just love that theme that shows up in horror movies.
Yeah, the paranoia is really good. And it's so much better in this version than the 50s version, which is like a lot more sort of stagnant and also takes place in a small town. So the dynamic is really different because it's easy to take over a small town when there's like 100 people there. But this feels so much like, I don't know. To me, it's more terrifying because once enough people in a big city have been taken over, it's kind of over. And like I said from the beginning, as soon as I saw this couple people in the beginning, I was like, oh, it's spread too far already. Like there isn't. Anyway.
Yeah. The other cool thing during this sequence that I really like is all the synthesizer noises and stuff that are
Yes.
happening. This is the first time that a Prophet 10 synthesizer was used to record something for a score. Anyway, very popular synthesizer. I will say, though, the rest of the score, not memorable and kind of bummed me out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to the music, but the heartbeat sound,
Yes.
like
Yes.
from the it's from like a baby ultrasound.
It sounds like
or
an
something.
ultrasound to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is the
like the-
director's wife.
It's their, yep.
which
Who was
also
pregnant
reminded
at the
me
time.
of Alien.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's cool because it's not just a heartbeat; it has that swishy sound.
Yeah. Yep.
And the scene where Elizabeth starts noticing that things are off. There's also a lot of like really slight Dutch angles. Like the camera is tilted slightly to the left or the right, which also adds to this feeling that like something is really not
Yeah.
right.
Sometimes it is not slight. I wrote
Yeah.
in all caps, crooked camera angles, because there were a couple of them that were like, all right, yeah, I get it.
When I think Dutch angle, I think of. Have you guys seen the 2005 Phantom of the Opera?
Nope.
No,
He
I
takes
didn't
his
know there was
mask
one.
off, and the camera does this like insane Dutch angle, and the prosthetics they have on him are so minimal. Like he doesn't look that different. So it's like this super weird moment where they're like, "Look at this," and he's just like a basically normal looking guy underneath.
Yeah. His face is irritated by the mask a little bit. Last thing I want to say about this scene, at the end of the scene with the guy getting hit by the car.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the worst looking fake blood I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like almost fluorescent pink. And actually, that same blood comes back later in a nosebleed. And it is anyway.
They were saving money. They're $5 goo.
They sure were.
They had
in
some
the blood
$12
department.
something else I was reading about.
See, it's funny. It didn't even register as bad to me. I think
Nope.
because
It's like
I'm
thick.
yeah, it is. But I think I just know I'm watching a 70s movie.
Oh, and that's how it looked in Dirty Harry and shit like
Right,
that too.
right.
So like it wasn't until like Taxi Driver that they figured out how to make blood look real. But like, man, it made me laugh. It looked like he had a lot of cake.
I love the Kevin McCarthy cameo. I think
Yeah.
it's super fun, especially as someone who really likes the 50s version. I feel like the crash audio is really quiet. Like, I didn't even realize he got hit by a car because it's off camera. The audio, the only reason I knew it happened because Donald Sutherland goes,
Yeah,
it's like, wow, that was my only clue that this man just got destroyed.
I have a lot of notes about the audio in this movie. It's not the finest Foley work. I'll say that.
I have two random thoughts. The first note I wrote was, banjo player. No wonder Christopher chose this movie. And the other one I wrote, which I did figure out eventually, but why are they squishing hair in the garbage truck again? I couldn't figure it out because that's not part of the 50s version.
Yeah, I hadn't figured that out until the third time I watched it when I stayed
I
awake
didn't
through
pick.
most of
I
it.
saw. I mean, there were a few different garbage trucks, and I wasn't picking up on it. People putting things in there. They were smushing things. I wasn't connecting me. It wasn't. I didn't connect that it was pod people who were putting their former selves in there, or that the garbage trucks were essentially getting rid of humans. Until like way later when it was very apparent. Like to me, I wasn't paying attention to the garbage trucks.
Yeah.
I was like so disturbed by this. This is like one of the most disturbing. Like, why is there so much hair in there? No garbage bags at all. Only
Loose
gray hair.
Yeah.
Tendrils.
Yeah.
I did forget to talk about my favorite shot of the whole movie. It's at 17 minutes and 3 seconds. So it's right around the time that Jeffrey has woken up and changed and he's headed out to the garbage truck. Brooke Adams is coming down the stairs, and it is the most beautiful film noir shot of this light coming from up above. She's on the stairs, and it's shining through the banister, and it just frames her and her face in such a weird, weird light.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, man. Just love that shot.
There's a lot of really good shots. There's like so much use of shadows and like broken glass or like filmy stuff that people are looking through all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. I
interesting.
love this era of filmmaking, which is why I was really hoping to love this movie.
Stay awake.
Really hoping to stay awake to see more of this.
We're at the bookstore with David Kibner, and this is a cool part. Philip Kaufman's wife is the angry woman talking to David Kibner. And David Kibner is played, of course, by Leonard Nimoy. And he manages, I think this is the scene where he manages to ditch Jeff Goldblum, telling him something, there's a woman over there.
Who's interested in your work.
Right, and that's enough to distract him.
I mean, yeah.
Which is great. So at this bookstore and at this book signing, it seems to be, David Kibner is trying to give some impromptu marriage counseling. A woman comes up to him and said, "That's not my husband." And Elizabeth is trying to relate to this woman, and everyone tells her to back off. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And David Kibner says to the woman, "Do you really think this is not your husband?" And I just love this character so much because I think it reflects a lot of real people that we have in society today that are popular authors or popular speakers, and they're so misguided.
Charlatans.
They are, and they may not be pod people yet, but we do secretly suspect that they're destined to become a pod person.
Yeah.
Or they have it in their heart anyway.
I hate this guy.
Yeah.
I was
him
like,
either.
why is Spock creepy? Why is he smiling like
I don't
that?
like him.
It's weird.
If you guys just
Listen to
get
her.
in here and hug
Listen
me, it'll fix
to this
everything.
woman who is saying her husband's not right.
Well, it's funny. That is something that someone said early on, many, many episodes ago. Listen to women. And that theme does come up in almost every horror movie.
Everywhere in life.
Well, sorry. Yes. Everywhere, all the time. And it certainly comes up here as well.
This was interesting to me, too, because there is a psychiatrist that the main guy in the 50s version wants some other character to go see. But I don't remember them being a character. So I think this is like a totally imagined character for this version.
I like his little leather glove.
Man,
Don't know what that's about.
that is creepy.
That is a cool accessory.
There's something about it in IMDb, but I don't remember what it was.
Was it related to drugs?
That it was super kick-ass. Related to drugs.
No, I'm serious.
Well, they hint that it may be like early carpal tunnel treatment.
Someone, that Spock knew in real life wore that or something like that.
Oh, but see, I love the fact
And he was a magician.
There's so many close-ups
An
of his hand, too.
illusionist. Yeah, there are. I mean, it's featured so prominently. And also,
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Look at it. It's never explained. Which,
Okay, the half glove was deliberately used for the sole purpose of making the character more distinctive and recognizable. Weird. Why did you... Whatever.
You mean his hands?
Nimoy got the idea from a friend who wore it to cover a burn on his hand.
Oh.
Fan of the Opera.
There it is. That was his friend.
It was the Phantom. They hang underground all the
Yeah.
time. It's fine.
Everything about this scene is weird.
Yeah. The smile really got me. Like, I thought he was turned at first. Like, I thought he was a pod person, but no. He's
Well, it was
just
too
a
early because we
freak.
didn't know yet.
Is he?
No, he's not. He's just
he's
a
not
regular
yet?
ass guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Leonard Nimoy?
I feel like he
Kidman.
is at this point. Like,
No, not till the end because they hang out many times. I don't think he is. Like he goes to Donald Sutherland's house or goes to his work or something.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
But then we have that
turned
scene of
yet.
him not that
Not so-
far after that in the car where he
There's
pretty
many
clearly
s-
makes it pretty clear that he is. I don't know.
Also, I don't care. Like when I watched this movie, I didn't want to put in the effort or care enough to know who was potting out already and who wasn't.
There was one particular instance
know.
where I was super interested in figuring it out.
I just wanted Jeff Goldblum to not become a pod person when he was in the
Yeah.
bathhouse.
Amanda, I totally agree with you. I think that was one of my
so I'm
biggest.
just like, come on, let's go. Let's
That
go.
was
I
what,
don't care.
that this movie
person.
needed to hustle, and it wasn't. And
I just don't think he was a pod person though, because or maybe it
I'm
just
with
took
you,
Donald
Amanda.
Not
Sutherland
yet,
a long
yeah.
time
Yeah.
to figure.
Okay.
That's
they have to
wrong.
help. Yeah, they have to help him and figure stuff out. And like he's still not. We just met him. We need time with him as him in order to realize his change later. Because when we are forced with the idea of, like when we saw Jeffrey change, he was different.
yeah,
But I think part of the fun of the movie is that there isn't a lot of difference between pre-change Kibner and post-change Kibner.
Right.
He's the same asshole
Yeah.
both times. And I think that's cool that we don't know when he's made the change because he's still the same jerk.
This is the classic suck continuum, and you can be anywhere on the spectrum.
Right.
Well, you're the same. Like they say, you're the same person, same memories, same like thoughts, but they take away the feeling and the emotion, so you can still be,
Sounds great.
a jerk. It's still, I would, like, as an empath, I would like a little bit of it removed from my body.
sure.
But he still can be the same like jerk of a human. He's just not putting that emotion into like relating to his patients or his friends or caring about
Or his books,
Yeah.
as Jeff Goldblum rightly points out,
That's right.
but not that trash.
But I like the book scene. It also sets up Jeff Goldblum's character really well as like
Yeah.
classic Goldblum, just like manic talking and science, and just like being whimsical and adorable.
It's a big conspiracy. What's a conspiracy?
Everything.
I just
he's-
love it.
He's great.
He's banging, doing his thing.
Well, and then outside, Leonard Nimoy has this great spiel where he's really going on, and he's just so smug and so self-assured, and he tells Elizabeth, before you go and do another thing and wreck something that you've got, just ask yourself and be sure, And it's great. And then he does the thing with Jeff Goldblum where he attacks Jeff Goldblum. And again, this is such a
How did this make you feel?
yeah. It's like
Such a weird. Anyway, this movie.
yeah, love it. We get now to Belichick's Baths, owned by Nancy and Jack, and I didn't even realize that they were a couple until well into the movie, and they're also married.
Yes.
They're married. No, wow.
Yes.
Yeah. They weren't believable.
Okay.
Like she wasn't believable as his wife, but like
No.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously?
No, I didn't buy it either.
Yeah.
I thought that I was like,
I didn't think she was
they just
believable.
met.
I knew they were married at some
Okay.
point.
Right.
Yeah. I knew it because in the 50s version, there's Miles Bennett, not Matthew, Becky Driscoll, not Elizabeth, Jack Belichick, same name. I don't know why he gets to keep his name and everybody else. And then his wife has a different name too. But that's like the makeup. It's like two friends who
I
are
see.
couples in both
Okay.
versions.
But what a wild shot this is. This whole scene in the mud bath.
Love
Is
it.
this a thing? I've never seen this before in my
it
life.
used to be more of a thing. I think there's probably still places you can do this. I don't know if you should.
You might get a social disease.
You will probably get a social disease.
Yeah, how do they clean the mud in between people?
I just took it as like a bath house.
Yeah.
So I
Go in
thi-
there for a soak.
I feel like I've seen other movies from this era though that have scenes in like the mud bath places. Like I just don't know if it's
Really?
I just don't know if it's like as common because maybe they figured out it's gross.
I think in Japantown they still have mud baths, and then there were the Sutro baths.
They have bathhouses in Korea called jjimjilbangs, but it's like a totally different thing. It's like a community center. There's like saunas and baths, and you can like buy a bunch of food there, and you can like literally sleep there overnight. I just like the sensory idea of this is so gross. Like when she's wiping all that mud off that guy when he
Well.
stands up and you see his mud balls. What is going on?
That,
Yes, you do.
that massage scene. Oh my gosh. And he's so unpleasant.
The massage seemed fine to me. It was really the mud that didn't.
The mud and the
work
one
for
guy
me.
that was just sinking into it.
Yeah, he can't get.
I don't
out.
know.
You just find a body down there sometimes.
When I went to the Blue Lagoon in Iceland a very long time ago, and they have that silica mud on the side of it, and it has therapeutic properties. It's natural, and you just take it and you lather it on your skin and on your face. And I was not going to go there, and I was dumb, and I put my hair underwater, which you're not supposed to do. And my hair was disgusting for a couple of weeks. It was horrible. I couldn't get that sulfur grossness out. But
Oh, man.
the mud stuff is supposed to have calming, therapeutic, really good properties. And my aunt, she was in her 60s, and she was just put it all over the place. And it's a thing. It's just yeah.
Yeah, but Veronica Cartwright's massage of that
Yeah.
guy on the table, that was
Doesn't look
pretty-
like a very good one.
She was didn't she
Just kind of going.
didn't she slap his butt though?
She did slap him
Yeah.
on the butt. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a massage technique, but I don't know what the rubbing his tummy was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a
just
little-
thought-
I'd be like, cut it out.
It's a bonus.
You're making me feel weird.
I just thought it was gross.
Yeah.
I really did I liked this scene though. I liked it visually. There were some really cool shots of the hallway with the tubs and the curtains. It felt ominous, and it already felt gross because of the mud and the communalness. But also there was nobody there. There was the one guy in the tub, and then Jeff Goldblum comes in and he's doing his thing. And then they find that body, and I liked this scene. I liked this. It woke. And I wasn't sleeping, but again, I was just we moved locations, new people, new stuff going on. I'm like, okay, we're getting more intel to what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought this was a cool scene, and it seems gross as fuck down there.
And scary. I mean, you know, of course you've got the curtains. You can't see what's in each of the mud baths.
Yeah.
And it also feels wet and slimy.
Yeah. It also seems really big. It's a really
Yeah.
large space.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a viable enterprise.
No,
though.
I was going to say, what do you think the rent's like there?
The body they find in the mud bath is very creepy looking. I love these effects.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, Matthew takes Elizabeth home, and then, as Allison just said, Nancy and Jack find a pod body. And we get some classic Veronica Cartwright here.
Yes, we do.
Don't touch it. You don't know where it's been.
And so this is our first connection to the Alien franchise, because first of all, she's wondering what the hell is going on, which she wonders loudly in Alien, but also the "don't touch it" thing is a line that's repeated multiple times in all of the Alien movies.
Also,
my God,
just
you're-
good advice.
That is very good advice, but nobody seems to take it in this movie.
I forgot that does show up in Alien movies.
That's in the yes.
There's
Right.
also, this is the very last scene of the movie. But what happens in that, she didn't know that was going to happen.
right.
And I guess we can talk about it when we get there, but
Yeah,
she didn't
yeah.
know that. So it's the same thing as Alien when the chest burster comes out and she didn't know it.
Yeah.
Same thing at the end, she didn't know that's
Oh, she didn't? That's
no,
funny.
No.
Oh, you mean in
Do you
real
think-
life?
In real life, the actor, she did not know that's what Donald Sutherland was going to do.
I'm curious what noise he was actually making. Well, anyway, we'll get to that. But
Wow, she must be traumatized. I mean,
and she's really good at screaming.
she is good at screaming.
She was in so many bizarre sci-fi stuff. She was in the X-Files. Yeah.
Oh, when the pod body opens its eyes and then she wakes up Jack and his eyes open and the pods close, that freaked me out.
Yeah.
That was very unexpected.
And also
to me.
his nose was bleeding after we see Jack Belichick's nose bleeding.
right.
In the 50s version, Jack gets a cut on his hand, and that's the only way they figure it out is because
the
this
same.
weird body that showed up
Yeah.
at his house
Right.
also has the same cut.
Because
on his
then by
hand.
the time Leonard Nimoy gets there, he's like, "How tall are you?" Wasn't he the one who asked that? Because they were trying, and that was the first when he said, "How tall are you?" I was like, "Oh my God, that's Jeff Goldblum's body on the slab. That's the pod."
Yeah,
that was what made me get it.
Yeah, I didn't put that together right
Yeah,
away.
and then the eye thing and the nose thing, and ooh,
in the
Very
50s,
cool.
the wife figures it out because she knows how tall her husband is,
that's so cool.
and it's just the four of them there.
Yeah, but I'm also confused about, and again, you don't need to explain it to me, but one thing I was like, I didn't understand how you could just like stop becoming the pod person. Like all of a sudden, like all of our main characters are being podded out at some point, I think.
Yes.
And then they like
They're all
you
podded
pause the game.
Yeah.
And then so I'm like, okay, well, because eventually like Jack gets saved.
I think it's a big, to me, it's a big weakness of
Yeah.
this movie is like the rules are not crystal clear
Yeah.
with that. And not that they necessarily need to be, but like the stakes are pretty different if it's just like, oh, just wake him up. They'll
It's like,
be fine.
wake up. Oh, you're saved.
Wake up, oh, there's 75% of him over there, but he's hairy. Stringy.
But how could you not partially be changed
I
or
don't know.
something?
Yeah.
I think like the pod person has to fully form, and once they do, then like the transformation is complete.
And
But
then
I
you
actually like this
disappear.
because they don't explain it at all in the 50s version. It's just you see pods and like something coming out of it, and then later the person is changed. But like it's really hard to tell when that change happens because you don't get any like weird, creepy, like spasming. Like it's just zoop, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, it's so cool though. I mean, it is really cool because also if you think about it, like this is just sci-fi. This came from outer space. It is not going to be explained. There are no specific rules. Even later on, when you see like more of the physical transformation with the flowers and the human or the bodies,
Fuck yeah.
it's so bizarre. By the time we got to that, I was like, "Whoa, wait! They're going to try to tell us how to happen." But wait a minute.
And they do it. I have it in the when we get
Yeah.
to it. I have
Yeah.
it in a note because it is.
Yeah, but I think for
Bad.
part of it, like, and sometimes I really do want to figure out the rules, and other times, like, you don't need to know. That's not what this is all about.
Yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes I want it and sometimes I don't. And in this one, it did bother me, but I was like, it's just like when people change or you don't know who to trust or there's a conspiracy. It's like, I don't know the rules of that, So I kind of like the ambiguity. But I was wondering, and yeah, we'll talk.
At multiple points where I've been like, I get it. Nope, I don't. And now I'm just mad about it.
and sleepy.
And then I fell asleep
I had
angrily.
no expectation of it. And so any little tidbit we got, I was like, oh, that makes more sense than the nothing I had in my brain.
Sure.
Well, we are, just to recap what happened at the mud baths. Jack is very, very dry and needs some water. He lies down. There's a great shot down the wall of Jack's head and the pod's head, because there was a pod that was seen in the mud baths. The pod opens its eyes and Kibner shows up. Matthew, meanwhile, breaks in or sneaks in to rescue Elizabeth. He has broken into the house, and we get this great shot of Jeffrey just watching any old random crap on TV. So when Matthew sneaks upstairs, he also sees Elizabeth's pod growing in a little pottery. And
Little greenhouse.
In her pottery barn.
and freaks out, grabs Elizabeth, gets her out of the house. So I think here's where we have a question. Why does Elizabeth survive? The pod dies. Is it just because she woke up?
Yeah, that's all I can think.
Right. So now the movie becomes Freddy Krueger never, ever fall asleep.
Right.
And that part of it I'm not so into.
I
Yes.
like it because it's like a race against time and one that you cannot win because eventually your body needs to sleep.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah, I think her waking up pauses the like transfer of her stuff to the pod person, and then Matthew like bashes her brains in, and I think also like having the pod destroyed would restart the
Because even later when Matthew is falling asleep on that chair, when there's all the pods all around him, but his pod
Best
is
scene in the
forming
movie.
and he wakes up as a normal human or whatever. He wakes up as himself and he looks down and sees his pod person. So it's the same thing where you wake up and it just stops it.
Isn't that the scene where he bashes the head in? He doesn't bash hers in, does
Oh,
he?
not yet?
I don't think so. I think that he does that to himself.
He bashes
Because that
his
was
head in.
awesome.
oh
That
oh yeah, and you
whole
can't do it
sequence.
to her.
Right.
Right.
I think maybe they destroy hers in the first one.
Do they
In
put her?
the
Do they
50s
put her in
one?
a garbage truck?
No,
Because Matthew leaves to go get help and comes back, and he's like, she was right there. She was right there.
Right. But
It's just like bits of
she's
pieces.
driving the garbage truck.
Well, and then the cops say, "Oh, it's just some pottery." Right? No, seriously.
Oh yeah, because he like makes a little like face and stuff, and
yeah, it's so
thanks, Jeffrey.
right. It's so weird.
In the 50s, sorry, I'm talking about the other one so much, but because she's already divorced, her dad is home, and to me, I find that so much freakier because here, Jeffrey's just like watching TV. I don't find that menacing. Like Jeffrey sucks, but I feel like I could take him. You know what I mean?
He's a dentist.
A dentist? Ooh. Oh, he has a tiny mirror.
You work with special tools.
But in the 50s version, her dad is home. Like Elizabeth or Becky's dad is home, and he's working on something in the basement. And so you don't see him that much, and he keeps going down to the basement, which I'm afraid of basements, so that like really freaks me out. Here I'm like, oh, he's watching TV? Oh, ooh, very.
Well, he kind of did that before, though. That was he kind of did that before he was
turned.
changed.
He was
Yeah.
a TV guy.
Yeah.
But he was specifically a Golden State Warriors guy.
That's
So the fact that he's not watching the basketball game tells you something's off.
Pod. Well, the next scene, we are all at Matthew's house, which is now Antipod HQ. David Kibner does not believe. He is just kind of lurched on the couch quite jauntily with his little hand swatch there, whatever
Yes.
we're going to call that thing. I mean, it's
His little palm protector.
yeah, it's front and center.
Yeah.
His little hand cod piece or something.
That's where I think that's where you hide the card. That then appears.
Oh, right.
That's where he shoots his webs from.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So I just love this whole debate scene, and it finishes up, and we know that David Kibner is a pod by this time.
Right.
The only thing I have in my notes that happened was Matthew calls the police for the first time, but when they get to Elizabeth's, they don't believe him.
Right.
Which was interesting to me because the police are maybe not turned yet, whereas in the 50s, they're like some of the first people to turn.
I feel like whenever he tries to call anybody, he's like, "Oh, call back again."
Right. I feel like they have been turned because don't they? Is it at this point where they call him Matthew and he's like, "How did you know my name?"
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Wait, I have
Yeah.
this backwards. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's also that cool.
Did you guys fall asleep too?
There's that cool scene where they go back to the after he gets Elizabeth. Matthew takes Elizabeth back to the bathhouse with Kibner, and Jeff Goldblum's there too. So they're all there, the whole family, the two couples, and Leonard Nimoy. And I like that too because they're trying to like posse up and try to figure out what's going on. There's that great line where Leonard Nimoy's character says to Jeff Goldblum's character, "Your friends are playing a joke," and he like just stone faces, "I don't have any friends, Dr. Kibner."
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's like one of my favorite
Enemies.
parts of the whole movie.
It is a great
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also see a garbage truck again, and then one of their explanations is, he's like, "What are we talking about? A space flower?" Yeah, so it's good stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he calls the police. There's no one's going to help him.
I never expected middle ships.
And then this is when we begin our frantic chases that never end.
Oh, frantic is not even the right word. They those chases are like a planned fire drill in terms of their pace. They're foiled by a fence.
Yeah.
And this is where I agree with Matt. I love this movie, but there is something about the last whole end segment that drags on for me.
It's so draggy.
Yeah, and I think I kind of stopped caring. You know, it reminds me of the end of Red Dawn when it's just kind of depressing and dragging on. And I like a good depressing bit at the end, but don't make me bored with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, the horrible foregone conclusion of the world ending where we're all going to be pod people. It's like, that's great, but you almost drag it on so long that you've lost the big punch of it. And anyway.
They are replicating scenes from the 50s a lot of the time and like bits of dialogue. Like there's a lot of shared dialogue, but I think they're so focused on recreating these scenes from the
I see.
that they like weren't paying attention to pacing or something. Like
Right.
something is weird here.
Yep.
But yeah, like they kiss twice. The first kiss is like really weird.
Yes.
That happens like very similarly in the first movie, and it's just like they're recreating it.
For some reason.
Yes,
Right.
and there's not a lot of like
this old chestnut.
yeah.
So, as you've said, we've got a lot of fruitless phone calls, and we get Philip Kaufman showing up, not showing up, but we get his voice on one of the calls. That might have been in a later scene, don't remember. And we get the woman from the bookstore party who shows back up at the lab saying that she's all better now, which is great because that is so creepy too, to be all better and you know you're not. It's so culty. And then Leonard Nimoy gives Elizabeth a sedative, which, of course, I can't say the word sedative without thinking of a sedative, which maybe is lost on everyone if you're not a Young Frankenstein fan.
Oh man, I have it checked out right now, but I haven't seen it yet.
Sedative!
You're gonna love that movie. That's
Oh,
a very funny
man.
movie. That's good call, Christopher.
So they realize what's going on or start to suspect for real, and Matthew almost turns into a pod. He falls asleep out in his backyard, and there's a great scene of this pod flower becoming Matthew.
Yes, and this like made me like the movie so much more right away. That scene is gross and awesome, and the like when the weird little baby version flops out of it and starts growing into him, and it kind of looks like him. It's an awesome sequence, and then it's robbed of its power for me immediately by Veronica Cartwright saying, "Wake up! They're growing out of these pods." And it's like they were like, "All right, quick! We need exposition to explain to the stupid people in the audience what's happening." Which, you know, it's fine. But anyway, the effects in this though are sweet. But also, how was he sleeping that deeply? If somebody was screaming at me like that, I would wake up right away.
Well, he was being turned though.
Did he get a sedative yet, or
Had he?
No.
Yeah, but
He's
where?
also been up for a very long time, and he's deep sleeping.
and they've been running so much.
I feel like
Running at a like a
But I
shuffling
feel
pace.
like when Elizabeth was being turned when she was in her bed at home, he had a hard time waking her up as well. She was like knocked out in her bed, and that she didn't have any sedative. She was just sleeping. So I feel like there must be some deep sleep thing that starts to happen once you're
When you get the
connected.
tendrils on you?
When you're slowly being removed from your own body and or
Kind of like
replicating.
Alien,
Yeah.
where it keeps you in it. Here we also get our direct connection to aliens in this, which is Veronica Cartwright actually says they cut the power, which they say in Aliens, and
That's cute.
I pointed at the screen like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme at that point.
Aw, this is when I started wondering about when Alien came out. And
The next year.
I was surprised. I
Yep.
was so surprised that this came out first.
Yep.
I thought the pod opening looked very similar to the alien's mouth, how it has like the extra thing in it.
I bet all those guys were like, "You fuckers,"
Yeah.
but you know, but one looks a lot better.
Yeah, I did love the pod scene where Matthew was falling asleep. And I like to, like, at this point before they're there, like, hunker down. Again, we had another great scene. Or was this the first? Like, with the heart thump beating, when you can feel, like, Matthew's franticness of running around the city. He's trying to get help. He realizes that no one can be trusted.
That
and he's
editing in that scene is
it's so
sweet.
good because you can feel, like, the panic. You can feel the claustrophobia, which to me is, like, the pinnacle or the crux of this movie. Is just, like, you can't trust anybody. You're claustrophobic. You don't know where to go. Nobody can help you. You're trying to solve it. And so they kind of like barricade themselves, but then he ends up falling asleep and succumbing to like everything that's happening around him. So I just thought it's a really, really cool part of the movie that we're in right now, even though they're getting to all these crazy chases.
Yeah.
The chase. The other thing that happens in the chases that stuck out to me is the footsteps sound so bad. They sound like they were using like coconut halves on the ground, just like when they and like I feel like all they ever have to do to get away from the pod people that are chasing him is just hide around the corner, and they miss him somehow every time, except at the end.
We're under the stairs.
Yep.
Right.
Although there is another guy watching them from a different door when they're hiding under the stairs. There's some random guy off on the side.
He hasn't
looking at
learned how
them
to
through
scream
the-
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like how the pod people, like, they don't talk, they don't communicate. They just, like, are honed in on, like, their zombie, like, a thing they're doing.
Yeah.
Just, like, they're honed in on turning that person or...
Yeah, I thought they were in a lot of ways scarier than zombies because I was making the comparison.
Because they look like humans.
Well, they look like humans. They kind of act like humans in many, many ways.
They go to work.
Yeah.
They go to jobs.
Real, what are the pod people doing at the health department, for God's sake?
It is scary, though, because, again, like we talked about it at, like, the beginning of this whole episode is they could be anywhere all around us at any time
They
because they
are.
look and act and are humans.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't
Who
it-
here's a pod person? Raise your hand.
And isn't it true though that like the trope of a pod person came from these movies? Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Which is really cool.
It is cool.
I started getting frustrated here because when it's a small town, it makes sense to me to be running around trying to find help. When it's a big city, you got to get out. I'm leaving, and they keep trying to like go to someone else's house or go to some other building, and it's like I'd be trying to leave, and not on a major highway, not with a taxi. Like you've got to be smarter than this.
Yeah. Well, if we, because Jeff Goldblum turns, is he turned yet? He's on his. Is Donald
Not
Elizabeth
quite yet.
on yet?
His unceremonious like I'm gonna go get help scene.
Well, you know what bothered me about that, and we're coming right up to it. Jeff Goldblum said, "I'll be the hero. I'll go get help." Well, Veronica Cartwright also ran after and joined him
Yeah.
and gets no credit at all for like luring the pod people away.
And of course, she's actually still.
She's
At the end.
she ends up being successful.
Yeah.
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 She's our
I
final
mean,
girl.
She probably tripped Jeff Goldblum.
But did any of you actually think he was going to be successful
No.
in getting help? Like
No.
Oh,
after
no.
the way he acted the entire movie, it's like
Yeah.
he's gonna like
I was
write some poetry or something.
I thought he was just going to lead them away and die.
Yeah.
You know, like Bender in Breakfast Club. Sorry.
I love whenever
Gotta do it.
when you say whenever it's like this, and then it ends up being it's a
like-
joyride every time
Yeah,
to get
like,
to
well,
what-
where are we
to get
going
to your
here?
reference.
How do you connect the dots?
I love
Here we go. Classic Christopher.
We get a chase through the Embarcadero. Jack and Nancy run off. Another foot chase down Market Street. And then it's time. And then finally they would think, well, it's time to get into a taxi and go to the airport. And here's where we get the director from the first movie, Don Siegel.
Some night, eh?
Yeah, he's the taxi driver. And he says, 2 passengers, type H. Not to put too strong a stamp on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we get to this point, they run through the red light district, though. And
Oh,
the
that's
guy,
right.
There are a lot of things yelled at them, but one of them that made me laugh was guaranteed to make you feel like a new man.
That's so
That's cool.
Of course, I didn't even pick up on
Yeah.
what he was saying.
That's where we get the craziest camera angles, and also like they're not really running at that point anymore.
Right.
But there's clearly pod people everywhere. Why are they not feeling any? This is where the movie is losing me a lot because there's no urgency at this point.
Well, there was a chase just a second ago.
Right.
And now
Before
we're
they got stopped by like a 6-foot fence
Right.
that they could have climbed.
Yeah.
I don't know if Elizabeth could have. She's
She
running around
could
in her
have.
little high heels.
You
It's
kick
like,
them off. You
Bump
climb
those
the
things
fence.
off. Yeah, exactly.
You need to like
Hildy can climb a fence like
put your
that.
feet in 4 times. You go over the top, jump off it. Has she not watched movies before?
Damn straight. Use your jacket on
Yeah.
the top so you don't hurt yourself.
I also think that they slow down though because it's less conspicuous than 2 definite humans running. Because early in the movie, like before everything starts really kicking off, there's a scene of maybe Matthew in town, and there's some random guy booking it across the street.
Oh,
that
that's
caught my
so
attention
good.
Yeah.
like right away.
Yeah.
But if a larger majority of people has already turned, I would be like, it's like in The Walking Dead where you're like putting zombie remains all over your body. Like, I want to fit in. I don't want anyone to notice that I'm different.
But
Well,
I feel
yeah.
like aren't we led to believe that they can sense that they're human?
I don't know. I have some serious questions about that in the last scene, which I puzzled over for a very long time.
You did a puzzle while you were watching.
You know, though, pod people contain multitudes.
Sure. It's like however dumb you were in real life, you continue to be that dumb as a pod person. Unfortunately, it picks up all of those traits.
There's also a sign that says home of the totally blank college co-eds, and I
Oh, I saw that.
couldn't figure out what the blank would be.
I didn't see that.
I saw
It's
that
like a
sign.
big sign on the side of a building.
I'm going to guess nude.
Yeah, that was my guess.
But like, why not just write it that? Like, it's like blacked out. I don't know. It
That's
really
funny.
caught my attention.
Matthew and Elizabeth do escape from the taxi when they realize what's going on. They're being delivered into the hands of the pod police. They run out of the taxi. They huddle up.
And kiss.
Right.
They're
this is-
hiding and they kiss again.
But this is before they go to the office and get sedated.
Right.
Okay. So they make it to the office. I think there's just a big jump here, a big edit. They go back to their own office to hide out. And this is when David Kibner comes in, and also Jeffrey. You know, even pod people need dental work. Everyone's back.
And Jack.
And Jack.
Yep.
Right. That's right. Of course, Jack is back. David Kibner says, "You'll be born again into an untroubled world," which is just so creepy. Love it.
There's also a line in the sequence that's, "You have to stay awake," which feels like it was meant specifically for me.
Aww.
It didn't work.
In this version, it's an untroubled world free of anxiety, fear, and hate. And in
Right.
the 50s, it's free of love, desire, ambition, and faith, which is
Ooh.
interesting.
Does he also say in this scene or is it earlier, we're born into a higher being or something like that?
I think it's a little bit later
Okay.
when he's like giving us the rundown.
They also take speed at some
Oh, I
point.
know.
Take 5.
Yeah. Take 5. That's great.
Take 5. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when they're back in the office.
Yeah.
Right. So we get a scuffle here.
Stabbed with the dart thing.
Yeah, that is great. I love that. So Jeff Goldblum. No. Is it Jeff Goldblum or Jeffrey gets it in the neck?
I think it's Jeff. No.
I can't remember.
Jeffrey
now.
Goldblum or Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, which Jeff? Jeff feed Jeff.
One of the Jeffs
What-
gets it.
G versus
In
J.
the neck, like
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
like in the back of the neck. Like,
I know.
in a weird spot.
Yeah, it's
good.
great. So we get a big scuffle here, and Matthew and Elizabeth do make their escape. Of course, after taking a lot of speed.
Yep.
A lot.
But they also get a sedative, so they're just evening that shit out.
Right.
So they escape, and then we run into Veronica Cartwright back in the stairwell. That's great. She's not a pod person because she's still her old yelly self. We're running through town. We get poor old Banjo Dog. And
I don't like that scene.
right.
It was disturbing, but it's like a cool, weird effect.
I liked it. I
Yeah.
was not expecting it. Because I had the ending of this movie ruined before I saw it ever.
How could you not at this point?
Yeah. But this was like, it reminds me of the first time I watched The Thing, which also was like heavily spoiled for me. But when the hands go down, I had no idea that was coming. Same with this. I'm like, what is
Yeah.
that?
Well, it shows you like how like
Fuck yeah.
genetics can go wrong, like the mutation, like it just, the wires got crossed.
Oh, right. Earlier
Banjo
on,
Dog.
right, but earlier on is when Matthew kicks the pod. Mm-hmm. That was, yeah, right.
Because that banjo guy's laying down with the dog next to him and a pod next to him, and he hits the pod and like disrupts it.
Yeah, it's right after
So
they,
weird.
I think when they run from the taxi, Matthew kicks the
Yeah.
pod,
Yep.
and that was the scene, right? So he wrecks the banjo player and the dog. So we're coming up to the end. There's a big commotion. Veronica Cartwright slips away, and there's another kind of overly drawn out scene. We've got Matthew and Elizabeth still left. They're debating what to do. Things look pretty bleak. We hear a faint tinkling of the sound of a bladder being blown from Scotland. What could it be? It's Amazing Grace.
It sure is.
I was so mad when that song came on. I was like, oh, what is happening? Am I at a funeral? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, poor Elizabeth is a pod, and she comes back and she disintegrates in Matthew's arms. So Matthew discovers the greenhouse, the other pottery, and goes crazy. He did all of his own stunts, which is really fascinating. Destroys that, but it's really not going
On
to
the
be
ship?
enough. That's the greenhouse where they're making all the pods.
Just by cutting the ropes
Yeah.
down.
He was hacking him. He got that. And
Yeah.
I caught an alarm went off when he
He
grabbed
pulled
the
that, and
axe.
it pulled up. It like started this otherworldly alarm that whatever the alarm system that the pod people made with the lights.
But it's so cool because it like the anxiety ramped as a viewer. The anxiety went up a little bit because it was, I don't know. I also like that it was on a ship. Like it was, you can move that little pod,
The pod farm.
the pod barn. You can just
The
drive
pottery
that
barn.
ship anywhere to any seaport, like along the west coast
Right.
or east coast, and drop.
Yeah.
Deliver the pods. I don't know. I thought it was cool that it was a ship.
I feel
And that
like
everybody was just waiting in line outside
Yeah,
of
the
it to
ship
go
was
in.
cool, and to see
Yeah.
that giant crane out front was great. Last scene, so it's the next morning, and we see Matthew, who has somehow survived the night.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go back. We have a second Donald Sutherland dangle in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because he dangles at one point, like he did in Don't Look Now.
From the
When he's up on the ladder, the scaffolding and
That's
stuff
Oh,
in
wow.
the slow action sequences.
That's
In that
cool.
part.
I'm also wondering if he ever survives a movie he's in.
Yeah.
That's true.
He's a daredevil.
JFK.
He survives cloud bursting, although he gets arrested.
Wow. He's been through some things. There's also a quote I wrote down. I think Elizabeth says this to Matthew. They were right. It's painless. Good. Come. Sleep. Does she say that?
Yeah. I hate this. One, get up,
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to totally give up and just fucking die. All right. I guess if that's your prerogative, that's fine. But I just feel like it's so lame. She's just like, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also kind of bummed that he left her there and didn't like take her with him to the ship or whatever.
That's how it happens in the first one, but he comes back and tells her that he loves her, and she like transforms instantly in front of him, and that was a huge point of contention for fans of that movie because that's like not in line with how they show the pod transformation happening any other time. So I think they specifically did that this way to like fix that continuity error from the first one.
It makes sense, like for the whatever rules there are for becoming a pod person, but in thinking of like two human people who've declared their love for each other, who are like basically the last two people who are not pod people in their point of view, and they're trying to escape and run away, and they know the ship is where, like, why doesn't I just wanted them to go together to investigate instead of like, you stay here, you're safe in the middle of the weeds, I'm going to go off. I mean, he's not going to predict that she's going to fall asleep and become a pod person, but like, I don't like it when you have like a terrible thing happening in a movie that's scary where you like leave one person. You don't separate
Yeah.
the party.
I guess now that I'm thinking about it, she did twist her ankle or whatever, and he's been carrying her the whole time.
Yeah.
So I think he is trying to figure out where to go next, and he
Or he's
likely
making a
will have to
plan.
carry
All
her.
right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
So
He also carries her in the 50s one, and he trips, and they just slam into the ground. It's really funny.
I also thought it was creepy how she just like strolls through the weeds. She's like naked. She's like fully nude. And I'm like, oh, no.
Then we get the shriek.
I hated that. Dude, what is
Yeah.
up with the 70s and 80s? Just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's one lady in the movie? Let's make her naked. I guess she didn't want to do it either, so it like is doubly
That
just
tracks.
Yep.
dumb. No one else is naked when they turn. Like what?
I as much as I love this era of filmmaking, yeah, that is a thing. I don't know what to say.
Like they would
dudes
change
rock.
movies to get more
much.
boobs in it. You had to like meet the quota.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
At least I didn't have to watch Donald Sutherland have sex this time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you have not seen Don't Look Now, please go watch it. That's the other Donald Sutherland movie we can't stop referencing. It's so good.
It is
and
a very
weird.
good
It is
Very
bizarre.
good. It's better than this.
Yeah. I love it.
Foreshadowing.
Don't Look Now. I love Don't Look Now so much.
Yeah.
That was your pick, right, Christopher?
It was.
Yeah, you have a
Yeah.
Sutherland thing.
Interesting.
That was
Yeah.
on my short list, though, of things to pick for this show.
Good.
Yeah.
I love the effect when she just implodes.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the other one. I was like, what? And his his look and his scream is like
Yeah.
chef's kiss.
I mean, imagine if the woman of your dreams is just like disintegrating and imploding right in your arms. That's horror.
Happened to me once.
What? Oh my God, we need to call Lauren right now.
Yeah.
She's fine.
Plus, there's that horror on his face because this is the woman he loves. They just figured that out. The world is ending. He's on his own now, and he's distraught because she's gone. Like that's a lot to try to process.
And then he just kind of like
Yeah.
shambles off into the night again.
And then he runs underneath that yellow truck like he's Clark Griswold driving his family to the Christmas tree farm. What was that?
And they're like, they must be around here somewhere. And then they just kind of find him. I feel like we shamble from scene to scene to scene with this movie, and there's not a great sense of scale for me. I feel like we're just going around the same 4 blocks for the last 45 minutes of this movie.
Yeah, they needed to delete a couple. Maybe they were, like you said, reenacting some of the 50s stuff, but you cut a half hour, 20 minutes out of this, skip a couple of chase scenes, have the love scene, have some. Yes, it would be such a more compact type movie with that. But you stretch. I mean, I like that it's claustrophobic and anxiety producing, but like, it's just stretched a little too much. You need to just. I like all the stuff they were doing. I just want a little bit less of it towards the end. The last 45
About
minutes.
38
Yeah.
minutes less of it.
Yeah. We'll listen to it at 1.45 speed,
There's another great scene, another little bit right at the end at the greenhouse where there's an explosion. Donald Sutherland is running past an open doorway, and there's a big explosion because he's caused so much mayhem. And there's a stunt, not a stunt
An
person, there's
extra.
an extra who wanted to be in the movie. So he followed Donald Sutherland a little too closely and got burned. And he is in the movie.
Oh, wow.
You can
He's
see
in the
him.
movie, but he's going to have to wear one of those little gloves now. But yeah, they said he like severely burned his hands because
Oh, yeah.
he didn't listen to the instructions and got blown up in that shot. You
Yeah.
can like see him falling on the ground.
Yeah.
shot.
Ooh,
Wow.
gruesome.
Yeah.
That's what scares us.
Huh.
I almost feel like why even blow up this factory at this point? Like if they're already loading the ship, it's over. It's been over the whole time. But
To try
like,
to stop it.
Because they haven't established the rules of how these
Yeah.
fucking things work, so he doesn't know any better
And now
yet.
that he's found like this huge nexus of
He's
production.
a dumb guy.
You want to stop it.
yeah.
Because they're going to get loaded up on the ship and go all over.
We think.
In the 50s
Maybe.
one, it's just a truck. It's a big truck with a bunch of pods in the back.
Final scene. There's Matthew shambling downtown with those dead trees. And
Well, before that, we have all the stuff in the public health department. Like we're shown everybody as pod people that we've seen already, including
true.
what's her face, Elizabeth. And we have the little beaker that's spinning up the brown stuff. What is that, by the way? That's the second time we've seen that.
I have no
in this
idea.
movie.
Science.
Yeah.
Science water.
The science has stopped.
Right.
Science stopped. The water's now brown.
That's right.
He's also cutting out an article, but we don't see what it is this time.
Of course.
Yeah.
There's
So
also
you're-
go ahead.
You're wondering if he's a pod person or if he seems normal. Like he seems fine. He's just at work. He's pretending to be a pod person because he's totally normal. This is how I was watching the movie.
This is what I struggled with. I agree. I think he's not a pod person until the scene where he's walking down that street outside with
Because
all
even
the
like
nasty
when he's in the
trees.
office and he's doing his science stuff and he's cutting out the article and then he sees people getting up and walking in a line down the hallway and then he gets up and I'm like, what? And so he gets up and he joins the line and I was like, oh, he's got to pretend he's a pod person to walk in line with all of them down the hallway in the office.
Because he's like, when he's cutting stuff up, he's like looking around. And I feel like it's too human of a reaction.
Yeah, that's what I
for
thought.
him to be already turned.
Yeah, I thought
Because
he was a human.
I think so too. I think he's a human in the office scenes. My take is he goes there and he sees Elizabeth and he's like, wow, yeah, it's over. And then he sleeps.
Pod's out in the closet somewhere.
Yeah. But I really struggled with it because the first time I watched it, I did think he was a pod person the whole time during
in the
that
office?
office scene. But after I watched
think he
I had to
is.
watch it a couple times. I think he's still a human until the sort of reveal scene with Veronica Cartwright.
I thought he was a human until he literally makes that horrible sound. And I was like, oh, crud. Then I thought, oh, my God, he's been a pod person this whole time.
Oh, crud.
Ah,
Yeah.
jeez.
Because also when he
dang
did
it.
that, and I was like, I was kind of mad about that, too.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was like, are you kidding me?
And she just stands there screaming.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Oh, crap. Crap. Dang it. You're a pod guy.
Also, how did she find him? Like, where she's just been hiding out.
She just, yeah.
She's been creeping under the stairwell the whole time.
San Francisco seems real small.
Yeah, and it fucking isn't.
Is he in the same city, or is he in the same
Yeah.
city at that
He's
point?
at
Yeah, yeah. He's at the
Health department.
health department downtown, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he sees all those kids going into the building too, and he knows
Oh,
they're all
yeah.
going to be
That's a great
turned.
scene.
He
Yeah.
sees
School
that,
bus.
and then he sees Elizabeth turned, and I personally think he's like, well,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm done.
Well, because I loved that when the school bus with all the kids coming out, because as the viewer, you're like, oh man. And then one of the kids is like, but I'm not tired. I don't want to take a nap. And I'm like, oh man. And then the teacher pod is just leading them into like this building where they can all take a nap and become turned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Very
did not
horrific.
pick up on that.
Oh man, you were sleeping.
I just didn't care by this point.
I was ready to care again after we were done chasing, and I'm like, okay, we're getting towards the last,
Well-
because my TV is counting down. I'm okay. We're getting down to the last 10 minutes. What's gonna happen?
The second I think part of the problem is the second they showed the like dead trees, I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this still.
I don't remember dead trees.
All the trees in that final scene, they don't have like branches. It's just like a trunk with like these little like tiny.
Yeah, like
Like-
buds. They
Yeah.
look weird.
Knobs.
What does that have to
Knobs.
do with potting?
Who
Creepy.
knows? Probably not.
Is it
I bet
time
that some
passing
location
by?
scout was like, "That looks cool,"
Yeah.
and they were like, "Let's shoot this. Let's shoot this bewildering scene here." Veronica, don't move.
Well, the first scene we see on Earth is of the gel all over the trees and like the natural surroundings. So I thought it was like, oh, like even the natural world is like changed. Like everything is like it's over.
So the pod people are also bad for the environment.
They are
Just
the
like
worst
we are.
gardeners.
They're worse gardeners. They're actually speeding up climate change. My God, pod people are real.
We knew this already.
Yeah.
Well, final scene. Matthew is walking along, and Veronica Cartwright is so delighted to find her old friend again. And he turns around, and we get the pig squeal scream, realizing that Matthew, too, is gone. End scene.
Fade
So
into his
odd.
mouth.
And no music.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a good ending. It's in your face. It's gonna make you mad or like, yeah. Like, can you imagine seeing that, like, maybe you did when you were 10 years old, Christopher, like, in a theater with, like, 30 other people, then this ending comes on. Like, I got up from my couch and yelled, what?
Did you?
Everybody in the
Aw.
theater turns to each
Yeah.
other and go, "What do you think the rules are of these pod people and how they actually come together?"
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because in the book, humans win. The aliens leave because they're like,
Hell
the humans
yeah.
are too strong. And in the 50s version, the intended ending was him like running through traffic on the highway and being like, they're coming, they're coming. That's where the director wanted it to end. And then the studio made him put that little coda on at the end where there's like a weird frame narrative where he's in like a psychiatric ward and they're like, oh, this guy's crazy. And at the end, the police come and they're like, yeah, and we found these weird pods in the back of the truck. And the psychiatrist is like, wait, what? And he calls the FBI. And so in the 50s version, you get the impression that he's stopped it, that he's like gotten the proper people involved who will stop it. But the director never wanted that. That was studio interference. So with this one, they didn't film a happy ending so that they couldn't interfere. It was just this, and they kept it very like hush-hush for filming. And also, I think they said that the studio executives didn't know that that was the ending until they watched it at George Lucas's
I read that
house.
too.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Huh.
Star Wars was the year before. How come they're hanging out with whatever? I don't understand how Hollywood works, but that's fine. But
I
it's
mean, he was
interesting.
already a big deal at that point.
I guess one of the like sound guys was the same on this movie.
I feel like I read that too.
I don't know
He
anything
couldn't.
about it.
He needed more guys. Sorry.
Like specifically like a noise guy, like not the
Specifically
composer.
the worst one. He brought his coconuts.
It was probably the Raiders of the Lost Ark connection that you guys mentioned
I think that was the
because of Kaufman.
yeah, but that was
Kaufman-
like the yeah.
Anyways, I thought it was a cool ending. I like it's a good for the being in a 2-hour movie. I like the cliffhanger ending. I mean, I was frustrated by it as like an advanced movie viewer who was also knowing I had to come and talk about it. But I like that it made me mad and made me think, and I had to like question like what I thought for the last 10 minutes of the movie. I don't know. I thought it was effective. And I was like, yep, done, turning it off, not even rewinding and watching it again to figure it out. Which is another version of Amanda would have done that.
Aw. I had the ending spoiled for me by one of those like 100 best movie moments. So I knew it was coming, but I don't know. It's my favorite ending. It reminds me of the movie The Mist ending, which I also like, even though it's different.
Hell yeah.
Oh, no, that's a good one.
I love a sad
Yeah.
movie.
Rough.
I want to
Yeah.
feel bad at the
That's
end of a movie.
That's a bad one.
Yeah.
Is that Stephen King?
Yeah, watch
Yeah,
the
but
Mist,
it's
y'all.
Supermarket.
it's a
Yeah.
Frank
Yeah.
Darabont one, and oh god, it's good.
Who wants to go first with their Scarometer ranking on the 5-star scale and their movie quality ranking on the 10-star scale?
I can go. So for Scare Meter, I'm gonna say 2 out of 5. I suppose that the theme of the movie and the main storyline idea, like I said earlier, is scary. After a certain point, the execution not so much. The like pod scene in the park or wherever the fuck that is the coolest thing in that movie, and it's scary and creepy, and the bodies look great. But otherwise, it's not a terribly scary movie to me because nobody's in a hurry to do anything. And for quality, I'm going to say 6 out of 10. Mostly because this movie has only ever put me to sleep. And
As intended.
which is, it's funny that it's a movie that is just like, oh, don't sleep, they'll get you. Maybe they might have gotten me, and when they did get me, they made me not love this movie very much. There are so many things about it that I should like, but like I think actually like. I love Veronica Cartwright. I don't like her performance in this. I think it's like really hammy, and so that kind of bothers me. Donald Sutherland, I really like him, but I think he's kind of hammy in it. The score, I would pay you $100 on the spot if you could hum me a single music moment from this movie that wasn't Amazing Grace or bagpipes, but like, but there's and this is, I acknowledge this is a personal quibble. Some of the best horror, because this is a podcast about horror, is like tied directly to a really iconic piece of music. You think about Halloween, you think about Jaws, You think about Nightmare on Elm Street. This doesn't really have that. It has cool synthesizer stuff, but like that's a really big piece that's missing for me. But there are too many issues with it. It's a 6 out of 10 instead of a 5 out of 10 because of the little leather glove thing. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
Well, okay. I will go ahead, and I don't think this movie is very scary. Maybe I'll give it a 1. Maybe I'll give it a 1.5 just for like the tone. It did have that element of the claustrophobia or that intensity of not knowing what's going to happen, even though it got kind of boring. So like 1.5. Right down to 1.5, Allison. Why not? I'll be generous today.
Already did.
And then for my film rating out of 10, this movie, it's not, I think it's I'm not going to say it's a bad movie, but it's a good bad movie. I think there's a lot of cheesiness, some beautiful, like, fun shots. I like the use of light. I do like the sound in it, like the squishiness and some of the sound effects. I think that was effective. I liked this group of actors together. It just had a lot of pieces that were working for me, even though I wasn't like super into the movie. It's one of those movies where like, I'm supposed to be really into this because of X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Especially watching it like so many years later. Did I already say what number, Allison? I did not. All right, I'm waffling. I'm waffling over here. I'm waffling between a 5.
Christopher doesn't like sweets.
Yeah. Well, you're not getting. Oh, I will say my score aloud. I'll say 6 out of 10. Why not? I was waffling between a 5 and a 6. Yeah, I think it's a fun movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's too long. Cut 20 to 30 minutes. It would have been an excellent movie. It would have been an 8 at least. Just too many chase scenes. And I'm not even griping because I didn't know the rules. I didn't need to know the rules. It didn't bother me. That squishy scene when Donald is turning, like, there's just some good stuff in here. So yeah. So there we go. I don't think I'm going to watch it again. It's not on my lists. I did also rent from the library the 50s version to watch both of them. I didn't get time. I didn't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm good with where I am. And I'm glad I watched it. I like 70s Donald. Thought it was fun. I like the acting in it. Jeff Goldblum, a little baby Jeff, doing his thing. Yeah.
Skinny Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny baby
Yeah.
Jeff.
The director
with his
in the
bloody
commentary
nose.
makes the big point of how this is before he started weightlifting.
When he
He's
got all
never been
jacked.
I've never thought of Jeff Goldblum as a buff man.
No, I wouldn't say so
As
either.
much as we see him without a shirt, like.
I mean,
Anyways, I digress.
The guy looks good.
Yeah. I am a big Jeff Goldblum fan. I just think he's fun. All right. Miss Allison, tell us how you feel about this movie.
I will give this a 2 out of 5 because I really like the vibes. I think the atmosphere is really good.
For the scares?
Yes. I don't find it that scary, but I really enjoyed the special effects, especially those little 4 pod people like moving and grooving on the ground. That was weird. The dog with the guy face.
Mm-hmm. That was creepy.
There's like a lot of little
Yeah.
things.
That was a
Even
jump
just,
scare for me.
like Jeff Goldblum's eyes opening and closing between him and the pod version of him. There were so many little details. And like early on in the movie, Elizabeth running through the streets as she's following Jeffrey, like I really got the sense that things were not right off like throughout the entire movie. Overall film rating,
So it's
this
a
is
hard
tough.
one.
I'm torn between 7 and 8. Because the first time I watched this, I did think it was super slow, but I was watching it directly after watching the exact same story in another movie, which I don't recommend. I will give it, let's just split it down the middle, 7.5 out of 10. I thought this was a good movie. I watched this for the first time in 2022, where I was watching Alien for the first time. I immediately watched The Fly, the 80s Fly for the first
Damn.
time. Like January 2022 was bumping for me.
That rules.
But I just think it's a fun movie. There's like you said, a great cast. All of these people have been in other sci-fi or horror stuff before, so it's like a fun who's who. It could be shorter, but overall I enjoyed it, and so it will receive a 7.5.
Nice. Well, also, if you think about it was a book made into a movie, this is a remake. A remake that's, I like finding a remake that's not awful when I actually allow myself to watch the remake, because I don't trust that they're going to be good.
And there was like enough different about it and updated where I felt like it was actually worth a remake, which I never feel, especially now. It's like there's so many remakes of everything, and they're all just like shot for shot or worse versions of the original.
Except for The Thing.
Yes. I haven't seen the 50s version. The 80s was like so great for remakes, I'm realizing. Like this, that, The Blob is a really great updated version of that story.
People like to complain about like, anything is remakes, and it's like that's always been true.
There's always been a 20 or
It's a
30-year
cyclical
cycle.
thing.
Yeah.
And people probably complained about those movies that we now are like, that one's better and it's a classic. Like, my understanding is that the critical consensus of this particular Invasion of the Body Snatchers is now favored as the better of them.
Oh,
the
definitely.
70s one?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was good. And it was interesting. Like, there's all kinds of, like, little stuff sprinkled in. Like, the fact that Veronica Cartwright and Jeff Goldblum are married, like, juxtaposed with Elizabeth and Jeffrey, who are not married. And there's, like, all these, like, pop psychology lines about, like, how the family unit is disintegrating in the 70s. Like, just little things that, like, make it different and more interesting. Anyway, cool.
The modernization of the 50s version.
Yeah, it's like actually worth a remake.
We barely even talked about the 2003 version of the movie, which I did try to watch, and I think I shut it off after
I didn't even know it existed.
10 or 15 minutes. And I was really bored and mad. And yeah, I think it's kind of embarrassing.
But you got lost in his blue eyes. Sorry.
You've got a book, you've got the 50s version, you've got the 70s version, which many people think is at least as good, if not better, than the 50s version. And then you come along with the modern version. You should have learned a little bit about all the prior versions to make something spectacular, and instead it's something totally forgettable. But that being said, I give this movie with Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams a 9 out of 10. I really do love this movie. I think it is wonderfully shot, and I learned so much watching the director's commentary version. So good, and for reasons that Matt explained better than I did about how creepy a city can be. I think it comes across so well in this movie with all the scenes of just people on a bus staring at you, or odd things happening, or someone running down the street with no one obviously chasing them. I think it all adds up to this kind of urban horror, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it plays into that, like, I don't think I'm a paranoid person, but doesn't everyone kind of believe that, like, maybe everyone is against them? Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's always that.
Oh, in one way or another.
No, that's totally what I mean by, like, the world is weird today, where it's just like everybody knows exactly what I'm thinking right now, or something.
Yeah.
You know, where everybody out there is mad at me.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, setting it in a city is really cool because you realize how small you are versus how big the city is and how many people are around you. Like, I recently just watched A Quiet Place Day One for the first time.
I did too. I
just
loved
watched it. And we didn't need it. We didn't need this movie, but I liked the movie. But it's setting it in New York. You see a different perspective of the thing that happened. And it's a lot of people. It's a lot of bodies trying to run around, and they're being attacked by things. So I thought it was cool.
Is A Quiet Place the Jim from The Office?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not watch the first two. I don't give a crap about them, but I watched.
I liked that first one. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen them.
I thought it was pretty good.
Quiet Place Day One, I watched because it stars Lupita Nyong'o, who I love.
Yeah.
It was very good.
So you watched it and didn't watch the first two?
No.
Interesting.
I like that first one. Yeah.
I like the first one.
I liked all of them.
Yeah.
And I like
And
the
oh my
second one.
God.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you want to see me jump, like
Yes.
out of my chair,
Slam your hands on the table.
take me to a Quiet Place
Sure.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought of, since I had just seen that recently, I thought about that with having like a large city and a threat, and I thought it was cool.
Right.
That is so funny because I watched that, I think, last month, and I was having big alien thoughts where I was like thinking about how many movie monsters are rip-offs.
They owe everything to it.
Yes, it's so wild. And because I hadn't seen Alien until somewhat recently, I didn't realize that. But now that I'm like in on it, I see it everywhere. It's like it's the Quiet Place Alien. It's
Well, the Demogorgon.
Demogorgon
From
from
Stranger
Stranger
Things.
Things.
Yeah.
Honestly, even like I'm going to bring up the Hunger Games again. In Mockingjay, there's like these mutts, which when I read it looked very different in my mind than in the movie, where they look like the alien creature. It's like so wild.
Yeah.
None of you mentioned the banjo in your quality rating of this movie.
Oh,
We mentioned the banjo dog.
No, not in the rating. So that definitely plays a role in my
And
rating.
you enjoying it?
That's
Yeah.
right. I do love it. When else have you seen a banjo in a movie besides Deliverance?
I was just going to say Deliverance.
Besides Deliverance.
The Muppet movie.
That's true. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
oh yeah, that boring otter jug Christmas movie.
That one. Emmett
I tried to watch
Otter's
it last
Jug
year
Band
and it was
Christmas,
bad.
one of the finest Christmas specials of all
Otter's
time.
Jug. What?
My official
Emmett
rating.
Otter's Jug Band
Bad.
Christmas, another Henson production.
Thumbs
Don't get me
down.
started on the Muppets over here. I have gracefully brought in 2 Muppet references to
I
this,
love it.
and it made total sense.
Otter's Jug Band Christmas sounds
Emmett
like
Otter.
Emmett Otter.
Well, I give this movie a 3 out of 5 on the horror scale.
Oh,
I do love it so much. It creeps me out, and I think it's fantastic. Well, if you like what you heard today and want to let us know, you can email us at whatscaresus@aadl.org. Thanks for joining us. This has been What Scares Us.